legal work did not stop. And in fact, oops, I think you might be frozen. The need for probate and estate planning kind of went up with the pandemic, obviously, right?
Okay.
So we have been incredibly busy. I think at first it was really scary, but then people realized, like, oh, I'm not going to live forever. I probably should make that will, or I do need that POA, or this house title should get resolved, whatever it is. I think being trapped at home and kind of having to like face our humanity in a way, our mortality,
Yes.
really kind of help get people through to the lawyer's door. So,
So what are you doing most? Are you doing more estate planning, or what are you doing most?
I don't know. I never, I know what I feel like I do, but I never actually go look at my stats to see what I do the most of. But I feel, I feel like the most that the stuff we have going on mainly right now is title related.
Okay. Well, let's see. We've got about let's see here, less than 40 seconds before we actually go on.
Okay,
And listen, now what you want to give out? The number 972 845 1200. Is that the number you want to give out?
that is the number. Yes.
What about your website, CadillacLaw.com?
.net. Uh huh.
Recording in progress.
Let's see. Okay, let's see. We got 19 seconds. We're on the countdown now.
All right.
Alrighty. Once again, Lauren, you're just a blessing. You're just a blessing.
Oh, thanks, Robert. It's nice. So great to see you, Dr. Ashley. It's been forever.
Here we go. Okay. Hello and welcome to a great conversation with yours truly, Robert Ashley, and another great attorney, great sensitive law firm. And of course, we here on 1040 KGGR, we're broadcasting live on Facebook and YouTube. And once again, it's a Monday. Of course, it's Thanksgiving week, and we thank you so much. And we're very thankful to have a great attorney with us at this time. Attorney Lauren Cadilac is with us. And of course, Cadillac Law is no stranger to the 1040 listening family. And of course, you hear them each and every Thursday around 1 o'clock right here on the 1040. But of course, we have the very distinguished attorney Lauren Cadillac with us at this time to talk about some very important topics. Now, many of you know that we've been dealing with COVID-19 and the issue of estate planning. We cannot gamble with our eternity. We need to plan what we're going to do. And if you don't plan, then you're planning to fail. Now, also for those of you who have recently getting ready to pay your property taxes, I mean, you know that you can protest whatever the county is determining that particular amount. Of course, Attorney Lauren Cadillac can help you go through that particular process. Now, also, for those of you who own real estate and titles, are you involved in a title dispute or any kind of thing like that? She can help you with that as well. But once again, let's welcome in Attorney Lauren Cadillac. And first of all, I want to say a happy Thanksgiving to you, Attorney Cadillac, and God bless you. Thank you for joining us. How are you today?
Hi, Dr. Ashley. I'm wonderful. Thank you for that great introduction. That was beautiful. Happy Thanksgiving to you. I don't know if you remember, but 2020 through 2021 was my year of gratitude. And I'm almost going to go back to it. I tried a new theme this year and I haven't been able to really carry it through, but that gratitude I just keep going back to. And Thanksgiving is just a great time to remember. I was just telling someone before I spoke with you about my daughter was laughing the other day, and I just paused the television and just listened to it. And what a blessing to be able to do something like that, just to hear the sound of my own child's laughter. It's so wonderful. And so I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful to be here with y'all and to be able to serve the KGGR community at large. So.
Well, I'll tell you what, tell us a little bit about your background, your jurisprudence expertise, and you, of course, just talk to us about what you have to offer to the 1040 listeners here.
So I don't know. I'm sure if a listener is familiar, they know that my background came from real estate. I had a real estate sales license in Arizona by the time I was 19. Because I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, okay? And I thought going to real estate school might help, and I was right. It really did help in property law, so I was glad I did that. But what had happened to myself and my family is in 2006, I was hit head on by a Suburban in my small Scion XB, and I was trapped in the car, and they had to use the jaws of life to get me out. Yeah, and I was 24 years old. I was working on my MBA at the time, and I was hesitating to go to law school. I couldn't put any weight on my right leg. Oh, I was in a coma for 4 days, a 4-day coma. Yep, in the ICU, and I couldn't put any weight into my right leg for over a year. So when I was finally 25 and like learning how to walk again, I decided, if I can do this, I can go to law school. And so, really, that's how I ended up finally getting the kick in the booty to get to where I should be to come serve this community that I belong in. Oprah has a saying, like, she says, God will tell you, and you won't listen. So he'll bump it up a notch, and then you don't listen. Then he bumps it up a notch, and you don't listen. And then finally, boom, a car hits you head on, and you go to law school. But it's true, sometimes you'll be ignoring what God is telling you. And then he'll find a way to get you to remember real quick. So that car accident really like refocused and directed my life. And so when I finished with law school, I went to work for AT&T and I hated it. But when I came out to serve the people, then that was when I knew I was doing what I should. And just my real estate background, I ended up serving folks who had real estate needs. It just kind of went hand in hand. I was already doing property tax protests, like you mentioned, and I really just, began my service through real estate. So it's been important to me my whole life, really to seek justice, particularly for those who have not seen justice in their lifetime, minorities, women, that type of thing. And so I recall last year when the protests were taking place, I wanted to go out there. And a good friend of the show, TJ, the computer lady, I know you know her, Dr. Ashley, she said, nah, girl, we need you in here behind this keyboard fighting this fight. So while I don't get to go out and fight for racial equality, I get to fight for equity and equity in real estate. The most important thing in this country is land ownership. We all know that, right? Back in the old day, you had to own land to vote. You had to own this to do. So retaining that land ownership, helping people make sure that everything they worked for their whole lives is not just lost or taken back by the government or squandered by fights from children. Those are the type of places that I help achieve that type of justice, or at least I feel like I'm helping contribute,
Well, I tell you what, once again, everybody, we are talking here with Attorney Lauren Cadillac of a Cadilac Law. Once again, some of the areas that they really focus on is estate planning, aging here in Texas, property tax protests, as well as real estate titles. And what I sense, Lauren, is that you have accepted a calling. It seems like you realize that God gave you the expertise in jurisprudence. He allowed you to live, because that head-on collision, we could not even be here talking to you. He allowed you to live for a purpose. And I just want to thank you so much for adhering to that purpose and accepting your calling, because you could be sitting in an ivory tower up there in Las Colinas or up there somewhere in Frisco, but yet you're here in sunny South Dallas, being concerned about the least of these when it comes down to estate planning. And in light of the COVID-19 pandemic that we're dealing with, do you encourage everyone to make sure that if something were to happen, if we were to die as a result of COVID-19, our houses would be in order? Can you help us with that kind of planning as we move forward?
Yes, absolutely. And it's so important too, Dr. Ashley. A lot of folks say, well, what will it matter when I'm dead? I'll be in heaven, I'll be home. Who cares what happens with what I did, on the earth? I was raised in a household that had a Protestant upbringing, and our whole thing was the better you do on earth, the better you do in heaven. And so if you're going to sow the earth while you're here, you can't just irresponsibly leave it when you're gone. But really, it's not even about that. What people don't think about is that estate planning is really planning your way back home to heaven. So where it really matters, and we've seen this especially with COVID, is having power of attorney. These folks who ended up in the ICU on machines 10 days, 30 days, whatever, in COVID, who's making their medical decisions? Who's paying their mortgage at home? Like, how are they making sure they're coming home to pay bills? That's your power of attorney. Those are incredibly important decisions. And when we don't have those, at least here in Texas, I don't speak for other states,
Sure.
but in the state of Texas, if you don't have power of attorney and it comes up that you need someone to make those type of decisions, we have to go to court and file for guardianship. So that is a $6,000 service, or you could pay $150 while you're, bopping around and awake and conscious and able to communicate with me, and save your family $6,000 on the back end. And that's, you're not passed away yet, right? This is while you are very much alive, to ensure your care, to ensure that your path home is how you want it to be. And so much of estate planning, sure, it has to do with generational wealth, and we're going to protect that. We're going to work on what you want. But it has to do with protecting yourself and your own wealth as well, and making sure that you have the appropriate instruments in place to be taken care of.
Beautiful. And for a lot of people too, when they begin to make those type of plannings, some people are suspicious and spooky. There's nothing wrong with planning
No.
for our future. Even in eternity, there's nothing spooky. That's just good common sense. Good common sense. And if somebody needs to talk with you about power of attorney or estate planning, how do they reach you?
They can call our office at 972-845-1200, or they can check out our website, which is Cadillac Law, CADILACLAW.net. And I want to tell you, I am superstitious. Just, very superstitious. The writing's on the wall. That is me. I'm a very superstitious type woman, okay? And I still do this for a living, because part of my superstition is that if you're not prepared, you'll fail.
Yes, indeed.
Right?
Yes,
And I don't want to fail ever. Not even in spirit, okay? I don't like that. We like to win here at Cadillac Law. And that, Dr. Ashley, we do litigation as well. So you're talking about these soft things, and I am a kind person, but I'm a bulldog in the courtroom too, and I like to win.
All right, let me ask you about another area here. Take, for example, property tax protests. I mean, we're in the fourth quarter of the year. We're getting ready to go into another year. I think the fiscal year started back in October. But can you talk to us about when we get the tax statement from our county? And of course, we say, oh, that's too much.
Yeah.
Do I have to pay that amount, or can I literally protest what they're taxing me in terms of my house?
Well, so you can protest the value they assess on the house. You can't protest the tax. The tax is set at the legislature. It's,
Yes.
certain percent, da, da, da. If you have an issue with that, you write your state legislator. That's how you protest that. Right now, people are looking at their bills. Taxes are due on January 31st, and they're late on February 1st. So it is too late for that bill to say, no, this value isn't correct. But that bill is going to be due. And if you are having trouble paying, you need to make sure, if you have a homestead, you can get into a payment plan. But if you don't have a homestead, you better come with that cash in hand. Yeah. So now what will happen is, in April, once we've settled down from giving them all our money, they will send us a notice that says, here's how much we believe your property is worth. That is when we can protest that value. So let's say they believe the property is worth $100,000, right? And the tax rate is 2.5%. So that's $2,500 a year, right? If I could get the value of the property reduced to, let's say, $50,000, the tax rate still remains 2.5%. But now you're only looking at $1,250 in taxes in the year, because the value they've assessed the rate against is so much lower. And so we spend a great deal of time here at Cadillac Law doing property tax protests. In fact, I would say I have a lot of favorite parts of my job. I say, oh, that's my favorite all the time, right? I think it's like you said, Dr. Ashley, God told me what to do and I followed it, right? And so when I set out and did what I was called to do, I found happiness and joy in it. And there's hardly any of my job that I don't say, oh, I love that. Or, there are some things, don't get me wrong, I got to do math every so often. I'm not a huge fan of it. But otherwise, and property tax protests are part of that for me. When neighborhoods protest their value, the whole thing goes down and everyone pays less. So it can be teamwork. It's a great way to interact with the government on a very kind of small scale, but a very impactful scale as it pertains to our wallets. So keep your eye out on the mail, folks. Your taxes are going to be late on February 1st, so make sure the property taxes are paid by January 31st. And then in April, you're going to want to call us at 972-845-1200 so that we can start protesting those values.
And is there a penalty, Attorney Lauren Cadillac, is there a penalty if you don't make those tax payments on time?
There is, but unfortunately, Dr. Ashley, I don't have it memorized. I work in all of the counties in Texas, and every county gets to do it differently. Isn't that fun? And so there are penalties, but I can assure you that if you have a homestead on the property, you can enter a payment plan for back property taxes for the taxes that are due on the 31st. If you do not have a homestead, you cannot enter a payment plan. So some folks, Dr. Ashley, are staying in, what used to maybe be Medea's house, but she's since passed, right?
Yes.
There is now an heirship homestead in Texas, so we can get you homesteaded into a payment plan, but we've also got to figure out and narrow down the heirs and the ownership, which is another service that we offer at Cadillac Law.
Yes. And also, let's see, when it comes down to real estate titles, how do you approach that? I mean, are there controversies involving titles, or how does that problem start?
All the time, Dr. Ashley. So I know it's wild, right? Like, part of the reason I like real estate is because unlike family law, there's not a lot of tears lost, right? Like, it's either recorded or it's not. It's in paper and recorded with the government or not. There's not a whole lot of emotion there. But often what happens is folks will try to take things into their own hands. So, for instance, I have a client right now whose auntie had her so my client's grandma, auntie's mom, sign a quitclaim deed over to her. Well, she doesn't know because she's not a lawyer, but a quitclaim deed is not even worth the paper it's printed on in the state of Texas. It is ridiculous. I can't even believe we allow them to be recorded. Okay, it just quits the claim. It does nothing. So she does this quitclaim deed. Then she realizes she messed up, so she does a new quitclaim deed, gives extra back to my client's mom. So now my client is a majority owner because this woman messed up on these quitclaim deeds. Well, guess what? We got to clean that up somehow. A title company is not going to insure against that. Nobody is going to be able to buy that house if we don't get a clear chain of title and figure those things out. So those kind of things happen all the time, Dr. Ashley. And not just that. I mean, I'm talking another client purchased a property 30 years ago, paid it off, but before the seller could deed it over, which they were supposed to when it was sold, that's the law, they didn't follow it. But with the seller, before the seller could sign a deed, they passed away. So now we got to go do a quiet title lawsuit because this person is entitled to this land. They've paid for it on years. They followed this thing, but they don't have the deed. So now we got to go file a lawsuit in the county, get that all straightened out, record that order. Now they're the owner. So those things can be quite a pain, and there can be many, many issues on a title. We handle all of them. I like title issues. For me, again, it's a favorite part of the job is kind of the Nancy Drew work that you have to do. What did they do? What's gone on here? Who did this? What day is that? You got to kind of solve a mystery, and then you can come up with a solution. And we love doing those type of things at Cadillac Law.
Well, I appreciate the Nancy Drew reference. I had to learn. I watch Channel 33 every now and then just to see Nancy Drew, very suspenseful type program. But Lauren, how can people reach you again?
So, Dr. Ashley, folks can give us a call at 972-845-1200. They can visit our website at www.cadillaclaw.net, and that's CADILAC. There's only one L in my last name. And then also the things we've kind of just barely begun to talk about today, I have an entire YouTube full of little videos about that information. So if you're interested in estate planning, or what is a ladybird deed, or have I been wrongfully foreclosed, there are resources on my YouTube, which is Cadillac Law as well.
Once again for our listeners on YouTube, Facebook, and 1040, please, we encourage you to utilize this very distinguished attorney. She's anointed to